Hello and welcome back to The Property Hustle. Now, if you are a regular viewer, you will immediately notice that I'm not in my usual location. That's because I'm in a very special location about to interview a very special guest. She goes by the name of Atuksha Poonwassie. She is the founder of Simple Crowdfunding, which is a platform that allows individuals such as you and I to invest in property for as little as £100. Sounds unbelievable, right? But believe me, it is very much possible, and there are people out there doing this. So I won't say anything further because I'll allow her to introduce herself. But before I get any further with this video, be sure to click the subscribe button below, click the bell icon so you can get notifications every time I post. Now, without further ado, let's get into the interview. Welcome, Atuksha. Thank you so much for agreeing to be one of my first interviewer guest. Well,
that's fantastic. I feel privileged, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really, really privileged to be here.
Thank you. And your offices are awesome. We are currently on the
HQS Wellington, which is moored at Temple Station, and we do have a floating office.
They do. I literally walked on and I felt a bit woozy, I'm not going to lie. I was like, oh, not sure this interview's going to go very well. Don't want to puke everywhere. But yeah, so obviously we've met each other and we're getting to know each other. But for the benefit of the viewers, would you mind giving us a bit of a background on who you are, your sort of experience to date, and why it is you got into property?
Where to start? I've had a very interesting journey. So I actually started off with data analytics and CRM, customer relationship management. I ran a CRM consulting business for 15 plus years. And on the side, I was also investing in property. But my way of investing in property was to save up some money, go to an estate agent, buy a property, and do it again and again and again.
And what year did you start? When was that?
So we bought Davin, my husband, and I, we started investing in property back in, I want to say 2002 or thereabouts. So
I was in primary school in 2002.
Thanks for that. I started young.
It's the best way to start.
Absolutely. So, and that really worked for us for a while. But as with all sort of property investments, there comes a point where you then just run out of cash. And so it then takes a little bit longer and longer to carry on investing that way. And we found out about alternative property strategies back in 2012. And it was all very, very interesting for us, and we thought, okay, some of these strategies we need to explore. And we started looking at them, and it was actually at a property event where I first learned about crowdfunding back in 2013. And so that was like
6 years ago.
Absolutely. So that's early 2013 is when we heard about it, and at the end of that year we had our first authorization from the FSA at that point.
Wow, that quick of a turnaround.
Yeah, it was just it sat right. It fitted completely with everything that we do. The fact that we could focus on property, build a fan base. So you're bringing in all the good things about CRM, building a crowd, building people who love what you do. Using technology, and Davin's background's in technology, just meant that we could do all the things that we truly love and do it all together. So it was a proper, really exciting fit for us.
Perfect.
So so that's what got us started.
Let's just strip it back. Could you explain, let's say in a couple of sentences, what exactly property crowdfunding is? Because I imagine there might be some viewers who've never heard of it before and just want to know a little bit more about it. So in simple terms.
So let me start with just crowdfunding first. So crowdfunding is where you have a business or a project that you want to get funded, and you get funded through lots of people, and it's everyday people. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. So you have people who have projects or businesses, and so in property, for example, property professionals who have property projects, and what they do is they bring it to a crowd platform, and people can then invest in that project. So you don't need to have a substantial amount of money to put into one project. You could put smaller amounts
and
into multiple projects. Exactly that.
Cool. And so what's the kind of minimum level anybody could, you know, the average Joe on the street could invest? What's the minimum level?
On our platform, we have £100 as a minimum investment, and it really depends on the project. If we're raising, say, £1 million for a project, then we wouldn't have an entry price of 100, probably, because the management then is quite substantial for that. So what we do is, you know, it's proportionate to the project itself. But we do have investments which are from £100, and they're also learn whilst investing. So
all of your projects?
The majority of them. But we state quite clearly as part of the project information whether there's a learning element. Some developers are really keen to provide it. Others just want to get the project done. So and there are different levels of that.
Cool. And in terms of learning while you invest, what exactly would an investor be learning? You know, what kind of activities could they expect to carry out in a project that they've helped fund?
So say for example you invest in a planning gain project, then for that you may get the paperwork, so the planning application paperwork. If there is a lease option, which there often is for planning gain opportunities, you might see a copy of that. You'll get updates as the planning process progresses, designs, that type of thing. That might be through webinars, it might be through written communication. And then if planning's granted, great. If it's not granted and it goes to appeal, then you might also learn about the appeal process. So that's for planning. If you were doing commercial to residential, again, it's what's specific to that project. So it might be, in its simplest form, you'll still get a copy of the shareholder agreements if it's an equity raise, loan agreements if it's a peer-to-peer loan. But you also learn about the actual process. If you have any foundations to dig, you've got to put other things in place. You'll learn about all of those steps and those processes. There are site visits, there's all sorts of things.
And so, correct me if I'm wrong, crowdfunding, there's two main types, isn't there? There's equity and debt. Or is it probably a bit more complicated than that? I'm just oversimplifying, but
it is more complicated than that, but a lot of people understand it as that. So on the equity side, what you're doing is you're buying shares in a company. So for property, you're buying shares typically in an SPV, special purpose vehicle, that owns the asset. Right? So and so that's the equity piece.
I'm following you on this.
That's cool. On the debt side, we do peer-to-peer loans, and that's the equivalent of maybe your development finance or your first charge lending, for example. So for that, what you're doing is you're saying, I'll loan you the money for a fixed period of time for a fixed return. And there's usually security that's taken with our loans. So,
and on your platform, are you seeing more of one or the other, or is it more or less 50-50 the projects that you on your platform?
It's interesting because there's always a requirement for equity. Equity is really hot because from a developer standpoint, to get development finance, maybe to get first charge lending, there are a lot of providers available for that. Equity is more challenging, and so we get a lot more requests for equity. But what we're seeing right now is that from an investment standpoint, people are also looking for a lot of debt projects.
Okay.
Because there's a bit more surety probably
Yeah.
with regards to those types of projects.
Okay, so equity, you're buying shares in a company, SPV. Debt, it's peer-to-peer loans, and you're going to give a fixed amount and get a fixed return.
Yeah, that's how we describe debt, because we do peer-to-peer lending.
Yes.
Debt also covers things like bonds and a number of other vehicles, which others do also provide.
Cool. And so, what advice to someone, let's say a viewer at the moment is watching, is interested in property crowdfunding? I'm going to put the link to Atuksha's website, Simple Crowdfunding, in the description box below, so be sure to click on that and do further research. But if someone is willing and wants to get involved, what would you say is sort of the main piece of advice you'd give to someone who's considering investing through property crowdfunding?
If someone's considering investing, what I would absolutely say is just have a look first and see what you're comfortable with. Don't jump into anything, there's no need to do that.
Yeah.
And also you have the opportunity to spread your risk, so you don't need to be putting or investing all of your money up front.
Yes.
You might want to consider putting smaller amounts into more projects until you're comfortable with the environment, and just figure out how it works. You can't invest without having gone through a process through our platform anyway. You know, we have checks we have to do, being in the regulated space. And so it's just for us it's about making sure that investors understand what is expected of them, and they understand the risks ultimately, because it is an investment environment. And so but for investors who are looking, it's also for them to get to understand how this process works and to ask their questions. So don't rush into it, and start small. There's no need to sort of just put everything in. The other thing is, it's like if you're new to property, you may want to consider a small amount in planning gain, and then a commercial to resi and a refurb project. Whereas if you are already experienced in property, you might just want to take it to the next level. So those things will come into play as well.
Cool. And so we've talked a lot about the investor side. In terms of the developer side of things, people that are, have a project or think they've got a deal that they are maybe struggling to get financing on, and are looking at a more creative way of structuring their financing, what would you say to those people? What are the kind of, I'd say maybe due diligence or the minimum that they need to do before considering or bringing their project to a platform such as yours?
I would suggest that there are instances where projects cannot get funded through traditional channels. And it doesn't mean that the project is not viable. It just means maybe it's a bit quirky. And so for us, it's about understanding what that project is about. The things that we will look at is experience of the developer, the person bringing the project. We'll look at the financials associated with it. What are the exit strategies, and have you covered off all the different angles for that? We'll look at past history, who makes up the team. There's a lot of information that goes into it. So it's not a case of we'll just fund everything. That won't happen.
Understandably, because you are, in essence, you have to protect your investors' interest as well. You can't just let anybody come onto the project, onto the platform, with a project. You've really got to look through it and make sure that you are sure with, because at the end of the day, it's your platform.
It's our platform. So what we don't want to do is put lots and lots of projects on site and then find actually
the deals fall out of bed.
Absolutely. That just won't happen. It's our reputation. And so what's important to us is we will look at the information that's provided to us, and if it goes onto the platform, at that point we are confirming that it's right for our platform. We always say to investors, you must do your own due diligence.
Yeah.
Ask your questions. We have discussion boards. We've got updates. We've got a whole host of other ways that people can start communicating and learning.
Yeah.
And it's really important to engage and to make sure that it's right for you.
Yeah.
The other thing with developers is you have to make sure that you have secured that project. So say, for example, you have seen a project and you really like it, you have to have some sort of option on it, or have exchange with delayed completion or something, but proper control.
Yeah.
Before we would even consider it for site.
Okay.
Because for two reasons. One is, if it's a really good project and we make it public, someone might pull it from you.
Yeah.
But also, we don't want to be presenting things to investors and then find that the project no longer exists, because that's not good for anybody either.
Cool. So, I mean, in essence, to me, it seems pretty simple. Simple crowdfunding.
That's what
in
we're
that,
about.
you know, as an investor, you could spread your risk, invest sort of small pockets of money across various projects, learn whilst you're earning. And then from the developer side of things, it's a great way to secure alternative finance where you might not be able to achieve it in other avenues.
You know, there's one more thing on the developer side which is really important to us, and this is about bringing out all the past experience, all the CRM, building your crowd and building your fan base and all of that stuff. Because for us, it's really important that if you have developers, you could have the coolest projects in the world. If no one knows about them, then in my view, that's a real shame.
Yeah.
And so we also work with developers and property professionals to help bring their brand to view and to help them shine.
Yes.
Because it is a very public space. Crowdfunding does that, which is wonderful. And actually, it's a real opportunity just to get your name out there and get known. And that happens very, very quickly.
So which would you say comes first? The building the brand, or the getting the project and getting that? So kind of, it's almost chicken and egg, isn't it? They kind of have to happen simultaneously.
They happen
almost
side by side. So we work very closely with fundraisers or developers. Will look at where they are, what presence they have already. So there are times where we might start earlier and start that communication earlier if we believe that there is just nothing out there.
Yeah.
Others are a lot more well known right from the beginning. They've done a lot more work, and so you know, we take a different approach. And so that's all very specific to the requirements. And also, for us, it's really important to understand what people want to do longer term.
Yeah.
You can raise funds for a project. For us, it's about the long-term relationships, and that's really, really important to us.
Cool. And so how many, since you started the platform back in, was it
2013, our first one, yeah.
How have you seen it grow? What would you say is your kind of flagship project, or the project that you know, sort of holds a special place in your heart? Is there a particular project to date that you've thought, you know, that was the one?
That's a really difficult one, because I love the majority of our projects for different reasons. I think the first one is always going to be close to us, because it's like, oh, the first one got funded.
Yeah.
And we were still learning. So, you know, back in 2013, when we were talking about crowdfunding and peer-to-peer lending at that point, people thought we were crazy. And talking about it in property, I was like, most people were, we have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Whereas...
But you were disruptors, and that's kind of...
Yeah. Whereas today it's like we do talks in various places, and the majority of the rooms heard about it, and it's wonderful, because I genuinely think it's a huge opportunity in the property industry.
Yeah.
And it's so underutilized at the moment. I think it can make a real difference.
Yeah.
It is disrupting the market. It's allowing for more and more people to get involved.
Yeah.
And it's allowing SME developers to also hold their ground and be able to bring homes to market ultimately, which has over the last however many years been declining.
Yeah, definitely.
So to go back to your question, there were different things that really appeal to me. So the first one, very close to my heart because it was the first one that was funded. I love the projects where we've got lots of investors involved, where there has been a sort of lower entry price because more people have been able to get involved and engage. We had the Doctors Project, which was Lafina and John, who I love dearly, and their project got funded in 7 minutes.
7 minutes?
Yeah, and Lafina missed most of it, which is just hilarious.
Wait, I still need to compute this. 7 minutes?
Yeah. So what we do is, for that project, it was their first project as well, which was amazing. And it was just hilarious because we send out communication beforehand. We say this project is coming. We provide the details up front because what we were seeing early on was that people would put money in quickly and pledge, and then read the paperwork afterwards, which we didn't want to happen. So we turned it on its head. We said, information's available, have a look at it, ask your questions, and then it will switch on for funding. And Lafina, I was talking to her that day, and said, we're going to switch on at 12 o'clock, 12 noon. It's great. And she said she got cornered by someone who was talking about some personal situation they were having at the time. And Lafina said she came back 15 minutes later and the whole thing, she'd missed the whole thing. It was hilarious.
And then come back fully funded, 100%. You just completely missed your first raise. I love that.
But it was, so that was just, it was really lovely. And I can go on and on. They all have different stories. Nicole Bremner's done lots of projects with us, and our largest raise was through one of her projects, which is great. Again, that was 17 minutes. So again, you know, they do go quickly.
You have to be quick with these things.
Some you do. You know, we have had other projects which have taken longer. But they've still got funded, and they all have very different dynamics. So, and every one of them has a story behind it, and that's what I love. Learning about the fundraisers and their journey. It's just lovely. It's really nice, and so I can't say I have a true favourite. Because they all give me something different. And
just sort of final few questions. In terms of, so I actually did, for my master's, so I did a real estate finance and investment master's, I chose crowdfunding as my kind of thesis, and I remember when I mentioned it to my supervisor at the time, he was like, this is when I did my proposal, submitted my proposal to him, he said, this is an awful idea, I've never heard of it, you know, what is this? He actually gave me the worst mark that I've ever got in university for my proposal. So I called him, arranged a call with him, I sent him links, I actually sent him your crowdfunding platform and a few others as well, and I just talked him through the process. I said, look, you might not be aware of this, but this is happening. And he went away, did some more research, he came back, he was like, actually this could be a really, really good project. And I ended up getting a distinction for it.
Yeah, rightly so.
Because he just wasn't aware of it. My kind of, the reason why I was looking at it, I knew about it for raising finance to build residential properties, but I was trying to ask the question whether we would see it kind of move towards commercial development, because at the moment, I mean, at least the platforms that I'm looking at, I haven't seen that many people building commercial properties, so building offices or industrial, you know, warehouses and things like that. Do you imagine or see that changing in the near future?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's available now. It's just waiting for the right projects. So there is. The beauty of crowdfunding is that there are always going to be a group of people who are completely tuned into that space, right? So then for me it's about identifying how you articulate that and how you tap into those groups. So having commercial projects available is very interesting. It also means then people can invest their pensions, for example.
Oh.
So the SAS pensions, that is, into commercial developments of sort and that type of thing. So you have a whole opportunity there. And we have, you know, some projects which are commercial. And whilst there might be a residential element, there's also a lot of commercial in that. It's finding the right projects.
Okay.
And I think there is a huge opportunity in that space.
Fine. Well, it's good to hear. If you look at the US,
a lot of the crowd projects actually started with commercial.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of the property ones started with commercial, and then and actually, in all fairness, I think a lot of them are still in that space.
Yeah.
We have commercial to residential, so there's always a large residential element, more so here, and that's what's established. But commercial makes perfect sense, especially for the long-term holders. So again, if you want to then invest your ISA, you want a fixed return for a longer period of time, then commercial's perfect for that
kind of steady income.
Absolutely.
Fine. Well, thank you so much. That's pretty much all the questions that I had for you. Just finally, if people want to follow you, keep on track with what you're doing and what Simple Crowdfunding is doing, would you mind sort of just looking into camera and letting people know how they can keep up to date with you?
Yeah, so the best way is follow us through our platform. If you register, then you will get all the most recent updates. So simplecrowdfunding.co.uk. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn. And if you want to follow me personally, then if you just do a search on Atuksha, ATUKSHA, I pretty much have @Atuksha. And
your name is so unique.
Exactly.
It's great.
You will find me for sure, and the details are also on our website.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you again. And there you have it, Simple Crowdfunding. It's definitely something that you should definitely research. I, again, will put the link to the Simple Crowdfunding platform down in the description box below. If you have any more queries or further questions, feel free to comment or follow Atuksha on her various social media platforms. I hope you found this session useful. I will be doing more interviews in the coming future, so if there is someone in property or a topic that you want me to discuss with someone, do comment below, let me know, follow me on all my social media platforms, and hope to see you next time. Unfortunately, that is it for this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for new content every Sunday. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.